from watching a stream for a long time, he said, you know, this is pretty much the moment where it's time for the student to defeat the sensei.
And it's kind of crazy to think about because for the 2017 Winter Playoffs, he almost didn't go. Mage almost just didn't attend. He said he didn't have the money. He wasn't really worth his time. And he just wasn't going to play. And then decided, you know what? I've got some money together. I'm going to go to the event. I'm going to go play it.
Top 8.
You mentioned he was top 8. He actually missed top 8 in Winter. He was 5-2 record. He barely missed top 8.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
And but that gave him enough points to qualify for Spring. And so at Spring went, oh, I'll give it another run. I had a great run last time. Maybe I can win this one. Won it. And now he's here playing the biggest match of his life. If he manages to beat Kolento, he is moving on to the top 8 of the Spring Championships.
It's kind of funny. Mage, after speaking with him, kind of has a similar personality to Kolento. You know, they're both very confident in their own style of play, in that control style of play. They both tend to go towards comfort when they're bringing decks to a tournament. They both have a little bit of arrogance about them.
Yeah.
When they speak and when they talk about their play. So I think that this is a pretty cool story for these guys coming in. And Kolento also for the home crowd here in Shanghai. I think Kolento might be just as popular, if not more popular, than some of the Chinese players here.
It's kind of cool. I was talking to Ali backstage, and Kolento has sort of this mystique about him. A lot of the fans here didn't even know that his name was Kolento in a true sense. They just knew he was K-God. They herald his winning pedigree so much, so people didn't even know what his real screen name was.
Yeah.
Just that it was K-God.
Pretty crazy.
When you're talked about that much, that's a lot of talking.
Oh, yeah.
Almost as much talking as we do.
That's a lot of talking. We talk all day.
Too much, some would say.
Yeah, a lot of people would say. But taking a look right off the bat, we have Kolento with his Taunt Warrior, sort of one of his signature decks. It's a deck that he used to primarily finish Rank 1 Legend in April of this year. Kolento, a player who's finished Rank 1 5 seasons in his career.
Yeah, to give you an idea, there's 120 total available slots for #1 finishes.
And he has 5 of them.
That's 4% of total finishes at #1. There's 70 million players in the world. Kolento has 4% of #1 finishes.
That's crazy. There's only one player who even ties him, I believe, which is Omega0 from China, which is a feat in and of itself. But you know, in the West, the next 2 players are Fibonacci at 3 and Gogong Sing at 3 from Korea. So he is well above the competition when it comes to Rank 1 Legend finishes. So Kolento, whenever he enters a tournament, whenever he's playing on ladder, he's never a player to sleep on.
It's such an interesting game between these two. Mage put a lot of work into his lineup. You know, we talked to him about practice. He said Teray was a big practice partner of his, really helped him design a lineup that he wanted. But he brought Freeze Mage to the event, and when we asked him about Freeze Mage, he said, I don't think it's the best Mage, but I like it the most. I think I play it the best. It's a big talking point for him that he simply wanted to bring something that he was comfortable with and that he really enjoyed. A lot like Kolento, honestly. Yeah. And during that interview process, he said he put a few days into theory crafting, but didn't dedicate that much time to practice. That it was mostly comfort, and that he just wanted to bring decks that he felt he wouldn't make mistakes with.
And oftentimes, you know, that's the key to matches like this. You see players bring these lineups that consist of the best decks, and they'll misplay every once in a while. Sometimes really small, they'll still win the game or the match. Sometimes big, that loses them. And Kolento is a player who's known for rarely making errors, and a lot of that's due to sort of the style which he goes with when it comes to tournaments. Is, you know, he doesn't spend all that time jamming games. He just relies on his instinct, relies on his 3 years of experience in competitive Hearthstone, and relies on his comfort. So it's turn 5. We haven't really talked about Hearthstone much.
Well, this matchup is a slow one, for
yeah.
sure. Mage has brought a much more controlling version of Paladin. He actually has an Azoth Paladin as his bring. So you're looking at Cairn. You're looking at that single copy of Loot Hoarder. You're looking at Tyrion. He wants to resurrect those bad boys at some point throughout the game and have that be his big push towards the end stages. You know, you still have Tyrion to get the job done, but a lot of times it's that N'Zoth that's the back-breaking hit as you move into the later stages. And for Kolento, some of this is a bit of a race towards his quest completion. He needs to start directing damage towards Mage. If he gives Mage enough time, that N'Zoth is oftentimes a final blow. But if he's able to keep the board restricted and start delivering that damage, it puts Mage on a back foot, and that's where he needs to be.
It's kind of interesting that both players are trying to race to the point where they can be the aggressor. It's a slow start for both players, but as soon as we get to that point where the ward's about to complete their quest, and the paladin gets to the point where they can start dropping their big bad, minions like Tyrion, it's a race to see who can get to that point where they can start piling on the pressure first. Once the quest is complete, you have a limited amount of time before you can win, but armor gain is gone. So you can start, directing those Ashbringer hits to the face, res everything with N'Zoth, try and build up that durable board to play around like Brawl plus the Ragnarok's hero power.
Yeah.
And then it's all a race from there. It's a slow start, but a quick finish.
And there's two really important things to note when it comes to that. Number one is that Mage has a copy of Harrison Jones in his Paladin deck. So that extra gas plus the body can be the start of that pressure and help him find N'Zoth as that key card. Kolento, oftentimes when you're playing Quest Warrior, you will find some sort of weapon destruction here, and it typically is Harrison Jones, just because the deck wants more card draw. He's chosen to go with Battle Rage and 2 Acolyte of Pain as his main source of card draw. There is no Harrison Jones in here, so Ashbringer is quite a significant threat to Kolento.
I mean, just weapon damage in general. Over time, those weapons can be that pressure that he needs, and we'll see.
Second Doomsayer from Mage, just strictly as a tempo play to get this Lord of the Arena down, is actually been a fairly brilliant maneuver now, because Kolento is struggling a bit on this turn. He's going to have to start making sacrifices to get any progress done. This is exactly where Mage wants to be.
Rolling in Tyrion.
Well, Hydrologist first, but one more mana. Bam.
We're rolling.
Easy high rolling, though. What secret do you want here from the Hydrologist?
Yeah, I think value is the name of the game. Getaway Kodo. Noble Sacrifice only blocking a shot from an Armor Smith, theoretically. Doesn't seem that great, but Getaway Kodo. With these minions on board, all of those minions seem like minions that you want on your side.
Look at this. Mage even going to protect the Lord of the Arena, expending Forbidden Healing. That's actually a really important turn to look at, because remember I mentioned to you, Kolento directing those Ragnarok shots from Sulfuros to Mage's face. One of the ways that he can actually sustain against that and keep race pressure himself is simply by using Forbidden Healing to negate 1 or 2 of the shots over time. The fact that he's expended it here means that he wants the aggressive pressure. He's trying to force Kolento into situations where he's using AoE, he's expending Brawl, he's using Execute, and have that pressure compound as the game moves along. I think that's a really key turn to look at in this game.
I like the weapon attack as well. With Tyrion slated for next turn, he wants to make sure that he has time to use all those charges before Tyrion inevitably bites the dust and gets that Ashbringer. So efficient points of damage. Keeping 1 charge on that weapon. Oh,
this
wow.
could be big.
Let's
Mage
see what it's going to hit.
The Kodo. It's
Oh,
good still.
Hit. I mean, it was all pretty good. Of course, Ali Armor Smith would have been ideal, but hey, I'll take an Armor Smith.
It's more than ideal. That would molto bene. Beautiful it would have been.
Bless you.
Thank you.
That's a lot of armor gain, though.
Yeah, that's something that will slow Mage's progress down a little bit. If Kolento has enough armor, it means that actually using Sulfuros is a lot easier. Oftentimes, if Kolento's not safe, he doesn't necessarily want to play it. But
oh man, it's a tough turn.
Imagine if he didn't have 2 Armor Smiths. Or if he did have 2 Armor Smiths that turn as well. I think that Kodo was a really key draw.
It's rare that you find an opportunity where you say, well, it's turn 8 and I'm not playing the Tyrion in my hand.
It's pretty rare.
So the Primordial Drake will clear off the 2-1 and the 1-1. But, I mean, leaving a 6-1 on the board against your 4-8 taunt,
Bad deal.
It feels bad. So I think Kolento is probably going to try and deviate here. I'm thinking Slam plus a Ravage Ghoul, some type of play along those lines.
This is so he's going to go for. Yeah, he's just trying to make quest progress.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Slam plus a Ravage Ghoul would have cleared off everything but the Stampeding Kodo, but he's not developing anything on the board. He's not making progress towards that quest. Kolento understands how to win this matchup, and that's complete the quest as quick as possible. and then just start eating your opponent until they eventually die.
Yeah, I want to mention something here too. Mage went to go attack with that Lord of the Arena immediately, and he shifted in his chair, put his hand over his mouth, was like, I need to slow down here. I'm against one of the best players in the world right now. This isn't gonna be won because I'm playing quickly. I need to make sure I'm sequencing this right, making proper plays. He's understanding how much this match means to him. And Kolento, he looks about the same the entire match. He's just been 100% focused. Mage has been shifting. He's been looking around. He seems a little bit uncomfortable to me.
Kolento looks the same almost every single time. You can put this picture right here of him on screen, put it side by side with any match he's almost ever played. Looks almost identical.
True story.
Down to the Cloud9 jersey for the last couple of years, it feels too.
Let me think.
Mage has a curator of his own.
Yeah, I mean, his curator is good, though. I don't think it is. I mean, it's good enough, but man, if he's playing into a potential brawl, Kolento doesn't have one. 2 copies of brawl in that bad boy.
It's hard to hold back, though. It's really hard to hold back.
Whoa, whoa. That's like a brawl.
Primordial Sleep with the Fishes is, I would say, almost better than a brawl.
That's a lot better than a brawl.
You still leave the curator alive with a single point of health, but still pretty good. And I believe Stampeding Kodo is going to be the getaway Kodo.
Yeah, it was first into play, and so when minions died simultaneously, resurrection effects or return effects like getaway Kodo or redemption will return in order how they entered play.
Oh, I thought it was just if there's a Kodo in play, getaway Kodo will make the Kodo get away.
Yeah, that too.
I was wrong.
That's not how it works. But it's how it worked in this situation.
Well, the Zoth is going to come out, and this is only going to... Oh, actually, I forgot about the loot order.
Yeah, the loot order, not like the hugest deal here, but the big one for Mage is that I think he senses that Kolento has been weak on removal. That Lord of the Arena stuck around for a long time and did a lot of damage over the course of a couple turns. I think he's reading this as Kolento doesn't have execute or a way to handle Tyrion right now. I'm going to go for a second one and keep the pressure high.
And if this Tyrion lives for another turn, that's so much Ashbringer damage. If he gets 2 swings in and then 3 swings in with the second Ashbringer, that's 25 points of damage directed at minions, directed at the face for Mage. So pretty big deal. A lot of times you do just want to play N'Zoth as early as you can, even if it's just Tyrion. Usually that's good enough.
And this has honestly been somewhat unfortunate for Kolento to be this deep in the deck and not have a brawl still. He's just got more taunts. More taunts, more taunts. Wow.
Well,
this is dangerous here.
He's given up the armor game. He's used 1 Alley Armorsmith and both of the traditional Armorsmith.
Big shot right here. He wanted to nail that Tyrion, to override that Ashbringer. And look at this. Kolento, he's going to take 6 damage to weaken the Tyrion.
Yikes.
Harrison Jones is going to draw another card.
Again.
Ooh.
I like, this is good. This is good. Mage is keeping himself in check.
It's so important, too. Like, he cannot afford to misstep in matches like this. These long, grindy games, every little thing matters. And when the stage becomes this volatile, when Kolento finally has the Sulfuros online, he needs to make sure that his plays are picture perfect. And this is an opportunity to grab some serious value. Getaway Kodo's looking pretty good.
Getaway Kodo's looking good. There is a little bit of a nod towards Repentance, with pretty much only big minions left in Kolento's deck. Repentance can definitely do the job. Getaway Kodo, yeah, I mean, Getaway Kodo, no matter what is brought back, I feel like it's still good. Even Harrison Jones, if Kolento's able to isolate that or hit it with a hero power.
Still 5-4.
Still a 5-4, and there's still a Fiery War Axe left in the deck for...
Mage has got to hurry up and decide, though. He's running out of time.
He's still got some attacks to make as well.
That was a mistake.
He missed his attack with Tyrion and with the Ashbringer. That is a blunder. That's 11 damage he just missed, and he didn't set the getaway, Kodo, so Tyrion's gone.
What in the world?
Out of my jungle.
Just forget about the rope?
He was just tunneled.
Reporting for duty.
I mean, I definitely get caught in La La Land all the time, but not in an important match like this. Wow. I'm flabbergasted.
He might be donezo after that. And you could see it right when that rope got done burning. He was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Ooh, it turns out you have a time limit. That's brutal.
Wow, he does not look happy. He's got to stop thinking about that, though. You can't dwell on something like that in a match.
I mean,
What now?
sometimes you just got to take it like one of the incredible visionaries of our time, Taylor Swift. Shake it off.
I was wondering where you were going. That's a rough shape.
I mean, he can clear off the board, but at this point, Kolento's got removal. He's got 8 damage a turn. He's got a weapon.
It's going to be really hard to not play that Kodo this turn.
Kodo trade in.
Wonder.
Stonehill defender.
Fish Stonehill first. I mean, Mage has still got some significant game in this match. I mean, there's a lot of value in hand.
Just does he have the time?
That's the question.
Yeah, it's the question I just asked.
Let
Yeah.
me think. Out of my
He can even go for Sunkeeper Terran here if he wants to hold on to the Kodo.
Yeah, but I like taking the backup Stonehill as well. Just keep buying value and look to extend this game. Now, remember, that Forbidden Healing is gone, though.
Forbidden Healing is gone.
So, True Silver Champion, that's pretty much the only healing left.
Ragnaros Lightlord.
Does have that one.
That's a big boy.
And Wild Pyromancer just to try to push some damage here, absorb
That's the
something,
place.
but that shot to face sets Mage in a dangerous spot all of a sudden. And if I didn't see Sunkeeper tear him here, I'd be pretty shocked. I mean, does he have to override his Ashbringer in this spot to get that 1 point of healing?
That's a big question. And if he does that, then he's not developing another minion.
Oh, look at this. This is a really smart play. Oh, I didn't even... This is brilliant play here from Mage, too. Him being able to utilize the Wild Pyromancer to stick around, to keep his board healthy against some of this stuff, looked really nice, but Kolento has lethal with that Sleep with the Fishes and Execute right now. So I like that he's pushing damage here, but he ran into the perfect range from Kolento to ruin this. But with only 7 cards left in the deck, it's very likely he's got that combination.
I want to see how that match plays out if Mage completes that turn, gets the 6 damage from Tarion, sits the getaway Kodo. I don't know. That was a huge blunder. That could have made that matchup different. But Kolento ends up taking the win.
Damage.
11. At the end of that game, Kolento was at 10 health when he got lethal. Mage looks a little bit shaken up, and we actually have that very moment. Rope is burning. Mage, I don't know what's going through his mind here, but it didn't even look like he selected a secret in time. He just let it burn out completely.
And look at his face when he's like, oh my gosh. He's like,
Ooh.
what happened? I don't know, Teach.
I don't know.
You cannot miss 11 damage.
Yikes.
You don't win games that way.
No. But, I mean, we've still got plenty of series left. That's only one game. Kolento is up 1-0. So Mage still has, he's still got plenty of game left.
Yeah.
And the Taunt Warrior, to be honest, does have pretty good matchups against Mage's lineup. So it would have been pretty tough for him to find a win against that deck anyway, but he had plenty of chances in that match and kind of threw it all away.
That game 1 is the matchup that he's looking for, too. The Paladin into the Quest Warrior is one of his best opportunities because, again, he can keep the pressure high enough that Kolento has to respond to the board, and that's when N'Zoth packs that big punch. If Kolento doesn't have another way to clear the board, he's going to take too much damage. But opportunities missed. He's got to move forward now. Paladin deck's still pretty good against a lot of Kolento's lineup. I would say the Jade Druid can be a big hit, but that's where N'Zoth also really is a game changer in that style of matchup. A lot of times the Murloc Paladin decks struggle if they don't get far ahead of the Jade Druid. Eventually it just builds up too much and too much and too much. But, you know, having second Tyrians, you know, the Cairn just to continue to pressure enough, those things can really add up towards the end of the game. I'd still say Jade Druid favored in that situation, but definitely a different dynamic.
Yeah, to give you an example, Muzzy was cleaning up against Jade Druids with his control Paladin throughout the spring playoffs for the Americas region. And you can tell the style that he played it. He just played it super aggressively. You know, just played out his minions on board. Wild Pyromancer on 2 in a lot of games, just to get minions rolling and the pressure rolling. So it would be a matchup that he would like, but we are going to move into game number 2, Kolento with the Quest Rogue. And Mage is going to be playing the Token Shaman.
Yeah, really the only thing that's a bit different about Mage's list is he does have a copy of Lightning Storm in place of 1 Maelstrom Portal. So that is an interesting choice that I'm not quite sold on. I think Maelstrom Portal is pretty darn efficient, and you'd be hard-pressed to find me without 2 copies of it in this deck. But other than that, it's got the full package still. Wants to evolve Doppelgangsters, has the 2 copies of Bloodlust. His game plan is pretty much set in stone. And for Kolento, it's a race. Can he complete Quest in time, or can he fend off the board enough to find himself in a good position?
Kolento keeps the Vanish in the mulligan.
Yeah. This is one of the matchups I think that it operates best in. You know, your opponent is looking to spend lots of mana building up a fairly weak board and then taking advantage of the fact that they have so many minions in play. So if he can offset that for a turn, that's oftentimes the time he needs to find himself in that advantageous position.
Mage not with the best early hand. Lightning Storm can allow you to just, you know, clear off the board full of small minions and keep pushing the damage and protect your own minions, but it does disrupt your following turn. It's one of the key differences between that and the Maelstrom Portal. You do get a little bit of extra damage, but you really have to plan your turns better with that card. So definitely, you know, a conscious decision for Mage. Maybe a little bit better in the mirror matchup. Patches.
It's not a good draw.
Gosh darn it, Patches. Get in your cannon.
You know, I like the evolve here, though. This is the kind of pressure that he needs to apply and hope that it works.
Nat the Darkfisher draws him a card. One thing, though, is Mage has got a Bloodlust for next turn.
Well, that's and the Sorcerer's Apprentice available for it. That's a lot of damage early on. 6, 7, 8 plus 9. That'd be 17 damage he could deal next turn if Kolento doesn't take care of some of this.
One thing, though, is Bloodlust is a fickle beast. If you use it too early, then sometimes you can lack the damage later on when you have a bigger board. It's about finding the balance. Kolento's willing to take the damage. Flame Tongue Totem adds even more.
Well,
he can devolve this as well.
Yeah, Devolve is looking really strong here because Kolento investing a lot of his time into this Igneous Elemental to try to get the Fire Elementals to complete this quest. If he devolves this, it will delay Kolento a lot, but that means he doesn't cast the Bloodlust. But he's drawn Flame Tongue Totem. I think that's a pretty good trade-off. However,
there's not many great uses for Devolve in this matchup. If you think that your opponent is planning to bounce a minion that they left on the board, it could be good. But later in the game, once the quest is complete, it does nothing.
Wow.
I'm surprised by this.
Well,
Tar Creeper is something that he can use to get through. Next turn he has Devolve plus Bloodlust, and that would be game ending.
I was about to mention that I did like this as well because he traded off the Igneous Elemental. I wasn't sure that that's where he was going, but you know, Kolento completing the quest isn't the problem. It's Kolento completing the quest and then playing it. So if he could just put Kolento's mana under pressure by just sticking so much on board, he has to deal with it. It's not the greatest spot. It's a turn before vanish.
I think Mage might have this one locked up. Backstab plus the Tar Creeper. Unless a taunt comes out of the devolve.
Oh,
Let's count the damage. He's got 6, 7, 8 plus 12. So he's got 20 points of damage.
it's game.
With Bloodlust, unless there's a taunt that comes out of the devolve.
It has to be that.
A 2-mana taunt.
I mean, he's made the decision he's going to Bloodlust either way.
And that's
no
it.
taunt. Tied series.
And I think that's a brilliant play by Mage, holding on to the devolve the previous turn. Realizing, hey, I'm going to kill him before he even gets close to completing the quest. I don't need to devolve the Ignis Elemental. Trade over it, build up a board that I know I can kill with Bloodlust next turn, and utilize the devolve to get through a taunt should he have one.
And that's a question you have to look at now from Kolento's perspective. He invested his turn into the Ignis Elemental to give him value to complete the quest. Could he have played that in a manner more hard on defense to try to stop that damage immediately and maybe force some more spells out of Mage instead of giving him that perfect setup?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, Mage takes a pretty big victory after that blunder in game number 1. And being on a big stage for the first time could be getting to Mage. He is a newcomer. He's, you know, been touted by a lot of, you know, pro players in the scene that he's helped them practice. But Mage definitely has probably some nerves to overcome. We actually had a chance to sit down and talk with Mage about his experiences, about getting here to the championship. So go ahead and take a look.
I don't know how I feel yet. This is all very new to me. When I first started Hearthstone, I was quite good at it, but I never took it seriously. I just didn't try to actually compete in tournaments. I had the mindset of just going into it, try it out, have fun, just as an experience. And I never expected myself to actually make it this far. But from the past 6 months, I started taking Hearthstone more seriously. I started getting into the competitive community, talking with competitive players. And I went from like taking it like a casual game to actually taking it as a competitive game. First time when I qualified for winter prelims, it's kind of far away, but I took the opportunity and went for it. Without that, I would actually not be here right now. In the APAC prelims, when I made top 8, I was like, wow, I could actually make it. I could actually become a competitive player. I happened to win it, in fact, and make it here to Shanghai and have a go at real competitive Hearthstone.
Mage is the Asia Pacific Spring Champion.
That was like kind of a miracle, and now I'm competing for this prestigious event. I'm really excited about it. What would it mean to win? It would mean a lot to me. It would mean that I could actually start as a truly professional player.
Mage, a player from New Zealand, actually currently resides in Australia. He said he's bounced around between the two countries throughout his early life, but not too many successes up until this point. He had a good performance in winter, barely missing out on the top 8, and then won the whole thing coming back in spring. And he said he wants to win this so he can really make a go at being a professional player, making that jump from casual to competitive, and now trying to make that jump from competitive to professional. It's a big one.
Yeah, don't let that blunder in game 1 fool you. This guy knows how to play. A lot of players have consulted him on his expertise for decks that specifically require long-term decision-making. That's where his strength lies, and I think it's where we'll see him be for quite some time. You know, here's brought Quest Rogue, this deck undeniably powerful. You know, upcoming change anticipated for it as well. But at this tournament, I think it was very strong.
Yeah, most of the field brought it. Over 50% of the field brought it, I believe. So it's sort of a staple in the meta at the moment, and you know, kind of a rough early hand, but sort of any minion draws in a row will kind of change that with Shadow Step and Prep. But we're going to see the other side of this matchup. Kolento now playing the Token Shaman and Mage on the Quest Rogue. But
Yeah.
you sort of mentioned it. Mage was a Reno deck specialist prior to sort of this set. Reno Warlock and Reno Mage.
I'm sorry to have that break here.
Gosh darn it, Patches!
Dang it, Patches. I've seen patches drawn so many times this event so far.
I think that's 8 times that we've seen it. We haven't even seen that many games. It's been in like 25% of the games that we've seen on stream with patches decks. Patches has been drawn.
TJ's flabbergasted.
I am flabbergasted.
6 matches into Hearthstone and Chill, and Patches gives you this look. Well, second Shadow Step is a mighty draw. Now, Mage is 1 bounce effect away from actually completing quests. The problem is, he doesn't have any minions to go with it. So I'm thinking Novice Engineer, probably the Jhin draw on this spot.
Igneous Elemental, anything that generates Mimic Pod,
Firefly.
basically any card in his deck.
That's when he draws that 3rd Shadow Step. The one benefit for him is that he's not under a ton of pressure right now. So that's definitely something to look at. Kolento's hand is likely to step this up pretty quickly. But for now, I think Mage has some time.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to Shadow Step this patches. He's going to wait and see. You know, you want to see your next couple draws. You don't want to all in with your bounce effects on a minion too early, because one draw could change things. Say his next draw is Igneous Elemental. All of a sudden, Flame Elemental becomes the better minion to complete the quest with. So he's just sort of saying, you know, I'm just going to play patches to remove and then evaluate my turns over the next couple turns to see, you know, exactly what I want to complete this quest with.
Yeah, and in Mage's Quest Rogue build, there actually is a little bit more value tucked in here as well. Swashbuckler has been, I'd say, the most controversial card in this deck of one to be there. It's that little bit of extra value, but there's Novice Engineer, there's a Vanish, and suddenly Mage has a very strong hand.
Yeah, he's just going to jam it. He's going all in on this Novice Engineer. He can complete the quest. What? 2 turns with Prep Vanish.
Yep.
It just depends on how he wants to utilize those resources. But definitely a great draw.
And these turns for Kolento are getting a little tough. Jade Lightning about his only play, and
That's not a great one.
I'd be surprised if he didn't actually play a Doppelgangster next turn to try to set up the Evolve on the following. And so Mage has, once again, he's got to really take his time and think through this. Sure, he could Novice Engineer right now, Prep Vanish, and then complete the quest, but he probably needs that preparation to accelerate out the Crystal Core, and he needs a few more minions to go alongside this. You know, the Vanish is at its best versus Doppelgangster Evolve.
It's really hard to play those minions from hand. Doppelgangster generates 3 5-drops. But then you vanish, all of a sudden you have 3 6-drops in your hand. You can only play 1 a turn. Math.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I like the Mimic Pod. Oh, that is not good. That's one of the worst ones he could have Mimic Podded into right now.
Well, it does give him some value post-quest.
Yeah, he needs something to play right now. I think tempo is how he wins this game. I don't think it's necessarily through value at this stage.
Yeah, and Kolento is just going to go for, hey, Doppelgangster right now. If those survive, next turn he can go second Doppelgangster and Evolve, and then he has 6 6-drops. And then they all get vanished, and he's just really sad.
So I'll be curious to see where Mage goes with this specific turn. I'd be a bit surprised if he put the Glacial Shard at risk. You know, post-Vanish, I think it's going to operate a little bit better.
He goes with Vanish now. All of a sudden, a board reload, he doesn't have an answer to it.
You know, that is a good point. He could go with Novice Engineer, prep the Vanish, and then set a minion and look towards the Crystal Core on the following turn alongside Glacial Shard.
He could set the Novice Engineer specifically, which would complete the quest. That's exactly what he's going to do. He can actually set 2 minions. Oh no, he wouldn't be able to complete the quest that way, so he sort of needs to play the Novice Engineer this turn. There's the first 4.
That sight, as you can see over Kolento's shoulder right there, that's got to make you nervous. You have nothing on board your opponent just completed. complete a quest. However, you have Doppelgangster evolve, and you just saw it vanish.
It's quite average.
What is that minion in the middle? It's the rogue minion, right? Gets +4/+4 if you have a weapon.
Is that Lucky Do Buccaneer? I don't think that's Lucky Do Buccaneer, is it?
I mean, I don't recognize it, so I think it is that one.
Ah, well, we got Ancient Harbinger.
Right in the middle. That's the one I want to see.
Let's see it. Oh, it is Lucky Do Buccaneer.
Look at that. I couldn't remember the name, but I remembered that it was that card.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I'm gonna kill off the Ancient Harbinger just to, you know, in case he has any of those big boys. What?
Harbinger. Harbinger.
Yeah, the Harbinger.
It's pretty strange when you've confused me. That doesn't happen very often.
Lucky Do Buccaneer and the Harbinger.
Buccaneer.
What's that the kid maker?
Well, second Doppelgangster gives a lot of pressure out for Kolento. And this is exactly the game he needs to play with this, is pressure. If he can just keep a wide amount of minions on board, he threatens Bloodlust the rest of the game. And that Swashbuckler's going to have to produce, or Mage is in a heap of trouble.
Master of Evolution.
Thinking bounce that Swashbuckler. Look for that one copy of Lightning Storm you had in your Evolve Shaman deck.
We can Master of Evolution and
For a taunt.
get a Pompous Thespian. The Pompous. Pompous Thespin.
Now you're just omitting letters. That's like what people do with my name.
So many options.
I think he's got to go for it. Not the Master of Evolution.
He's loading up, just hoping he doesn't have Bloodlust.
Well, this is the alternative plan as well. Is you load up, you hope they don't have Bloodlust. If they don't have Bloodlust, you have enough damage on board to threaten lethal.
But Kolento does have Bloodlust. 6, 7, 13, plus 15.
That's a 29er. And that means a 2-1 lead for Kolento in this set. One more game, and he's in the top 8.
Got him.
Whew. Was it that banish? Was it a bit premature?
It's hard to say. I don't think he really had many other choices. Igneous Elemental from the Mimic Pod didn't really give him many options. He needed to complete the quest as quick as possible, and the only way to do that was to vanish that turn, and hope Kolento didn't have the reload. But he did. He also had the Bloodlust, and so now Kolento takes the lead in the series.
That's always the one question I have. Again, that banish is at its best when it's used against Evolve. It slows down your opponent's tempo. It would have made that Glacial Shard Crystal Core play a little bit better. I'm not saying it's the wrong play, but it's just the alternative to think about it. You know, the consequence is you don't get it completed as quickly, don't have as much pressure. The benefit is maybe you buy some more tempo. Tough to say.
Yeah, Kolento now with the 2-1 lead. Pretty much a crowd favorite here, even more so than some of the Chinese players. They really look up to him. You know, he gets swarmed with fans whenever he goes out into the crowd and whenever he comes to any event in China. He's got a storied career. Is he the best player here, though? Let's take a look at what Kolento had to say.
Kolento's just been on an absolute tear for the last couple of months.
It feels like the China fans like Kolento more than the Chinese players.
Kolento is going to take it.
Kolento was able to capitalize.
I think one of the reasons Kolento is very popular in China because he is very handsome.
Kind of a blowout win for Kolento.
Kolento is a very famous player in Japan.
Kolento hardly makes mistakes, and he creates lots of decks.
He was really one of those first untouchable players in Hearthstone.
I used to watch a lot of his streams. I learned the best from him. I consider myself as his student. The student is going to beat the master.
Yeah, I talked to him. He was always threatening to beat me. Funny kid.
We see guys like Kolento getting a lot of attention.
You mean Kolento?
Yes.
Precisely Kolento, yeah.
I think it has always been the case that people just trying to beat me more than like going for a good solid strategy. Well, why would I be popular here? I don't know why it happened. Maybe they just watch like European tournaments and they like that point that I'm winning a lot. I mean, I know many people learned from me because I was there since the beginning, and I was also really good. I made a lot of decks. Whenever I play like different card game, I'm always good at it because I just know how things works. So no wonder like many people learn from me.
Cold-blooded from Kolento, man.
Incorrect. I think I'm a very logical person. Logic, imagination, I have these qualities. Competing is fun, winning is fun.
And there's one of Kolento's biggest fans.
That's a lot
in
of
the
those.
audience. Yeah, Kolento.
7, 8 O's.
Yeah. And again, we mentioned it, and he even said it himself. He said, I don't even know why I'm popular in China, but you know, he's been around since the beginning. He's won tournaments in Europe. He's won tournaments in China. He's won tournaments in the Americas. He's won tournaments everywhere.
I guess it's because he's winning a lot.
I suppose it is.
That's exactly why, Kolento.
Yeah, but you could say, when Kolento was referring to Mage, he said, he always messaged me and says that he's going to beat me. Funny little kid. Wow.
I always do.
Something that's cool for me to see, too, is just how different Kolento looks now than he did a few years back. It's like he's grown up.
He looks like a beetle.
He does kind of look like a beetle. Not like one of the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just waiting for him to stand up and start singing Yellow Submarine.
Which one is he? Ringlento Star.
There you go.
Yeah. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Quest Rogue again for Mage.
All right, who's going to draw patches?
Ooh. It's a nice start for Mage. That's a big talking point in this mirror match. You know, I mentioned that Swashbuckler was a really controversial card in this deck. Kolento's not running it. And a lot of players just simply aren't. They don't think that you have time to utilize what the Swashbuckler brings to the table. That's often the case. However, in this particular mirror match, there are a lot of strong tools that Swashbuckler can fetch, and I dare say the player who has it is likely at an advantage.
I would say so. Kolento has a pretty good hand of his own. He's got bounce effects and the Ignis Elemental. He's got the resources that he needs to complete his quest already.
Look at Mage draws the Mimic Pod, and is now suddenly questioning what the game plan was.
Yeah, well, how about 2 patches?
Wouldn't be that bad right now, honestly. I do like the prep on it as well, though. He'll have plenty of time to actually play the quest when it comes to that
needs
point.
to get the tempo.
But if he's going to do that, should he play the Swashbuckler first to make sure he doesn't get the patches that way?
I think you want to evaluate his draw first. I mean, it's really unlikely that you draw patches in that situation. 1 in 22.
Yeah, I'll take my chances there.
Yeah, that's you can't let your past experiences in this matchup, you know, you drawing patches a couple games throughout the tournament to sort of impact your decision making. You have to say, well, it's unlikely, and you know, I kind of got unlucky in those other times.
It's true, and that's the kind of presence of mind that you find tournament players having, even when everything's going wrong for them on the luck front. They still keep the presence of mind to slow down and make sure that they're playing properly. You don't get ahead of yourself and rush and change things just because you feel like you're going to get unlucky. It's not a thing to these guys.
Two 1/2s or a 2/2 and a 2/1?
I'm taking the 2/2/2/1. That's a harder card to use.
Yeah.
You know you're a novice engineer to complete right now. I say giddy up.
This is our town, scrub.
Plus it sounds cooler.
Beat it.
Yeah. Beat it.
One of the Beatles.
Great song by them.
Bad. It's another good one.
Yeah.
I'd say one of my favorite artists that actually took inspiration from them was Michael Jackson and Sgt. Pepper. AKA Frodan.
Salt and Pepper. Love them.
Kolento is pretty far behind on quest progress. I'm not sure this value that he can buy by chipping away at the board is going to be enough to make this up. I think Mage is very far ahead.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier he had the resources to complete the quest, but one of the biggest resources of them all, mana. That's the limiting factor for Kolento. He needs, for 2 turns to kill off his own Igneous Elemental, and then the turns to bounce the Flame Elementals, and then the turn to complete the quest.
I hope you like my invention.
Mage just needs a single bounce effect to that Novice Engineer in order to complete his quest.
Not only that, but the damage that he's chipping away at Kolento is nothing to scoff at. In increments of 5 is where it makes the most difference. Oh my. That, if there's a preparation drawn, Kolento is in heaps of trouble.
He's already used 1 preparation, so pretty unlikely 1 in 17 at this stage. Doesn't find it, but does complete the quest. So he's going to be the first player to do it. The question is, can Kolento complete it on the backswing and also be able to chip away enough at the board to minimize the impact?
Well, he's got Vanish ready as well.
That's his whole turn.
Exactly. He would need preparation or something to go with it. I think this might just be not enough at the end of the day. Mage is playing this interestingly as well, trading off the board position. I think I agree with him as well. This damage, I think, is fairly inconsequential at this stage as soon as he makes the first trade. He obviously wants to prevent bounce effects or Vanish from being relevant. So why not trade in that instance? The 1 mana summon in hand is worth a lot more, and Kolento draws patches.
It's like number 9 that we've even seen on stream.
Yeah, the opening hand is the brutal one, though. You get turn 5, turn 6.
Yeah, this one doesn't really matter much. He didn't even have another pirate in his hand to bring it out for free.
Yeah. At this stage, I think he fell far behind. The shadow step onto the Novice Engineer, drawing the other Novice Engineer was pretty brutal.
Oh, yeah.
It was a really sick draw. This match can get into one of those tiptoeing ranges where it's the little incremental things that matter, or threatening to complete quest in a dangerous position for your opponent. In this one, Mage had Shadow Step. He had a good Mimic Pod. Swashbuckler contributed to the fight.
Feels like Kolento has to vanish. He can Tar Creeper. Gets run over by a 5/5.
Yeah, I don't think he's got much of an option either.
Yeah, if he Tar Creepers, he needs to play Biolf and Tidehunter alongside it.
The problem with Vanish is that Vanish isn't a winning play. He has almost 0 way to win doing that.
So chip away at the board position.
Yeah, so going for smaller things instead, like bouncing this Flame Elemental, gives him an opportunity to maybe draw preparation and change it.
Well, we'll see, but Mage is going to complete the quest this turn. He's only up against a single 3/2.
Well, that's about going to lock it at this point. So this is 15 damage coming in now, and he's got the South Sea Deckhand plus the Gadgets and Ferryman on the following turn. So yeah. I just don't think he's falling out of this game.
It's effectively locked up. He's going to cross his eyes, dot his T's. Another Kolento fan in the audience. There are aplenty here at the Shanghai Expo Center. Oh, he wants his 4 packs.
Well, he's going to have to wait for one more game because it's game 5 we're going to. Mage ties it up. Blistering start in the Quest Rogue mirror match.
I mentioned earlier that this was, probably my favorite matchup that's happened so far today. It's only fitting that it goes to a game number 5. And you can see the players starting to feel a little bit of the stress.
Well, oftentimes in similar style lineups like this, where players both have Quest Rogue in the lineup, you do a lot of the breakdown on matchups, and it comes down to who wins that Quest Rogue mirror match.
Yeah.
I don't think this is quite that same way, but it's very similar to that. Winning that Quest Rogue mirror match, I think, is a big point for Mage.
And what's the last matchup going to be? Is it Quest Rogue versus Control Paladin?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that matchup I don't think is unwinnable for Control Paladin.
Definitely not.
I think it's actually pretty darn good, all things considered.
It's one of the few decks in the game that can actually grind out a Quest Rogue.
Yeah.
Quest Rogue is a deck that rarely runs out of resources once they complete the quest. Control Paladin can get it done in enough time to where they can try and win the game with, N'Zoth or just damage with Ashbringer. So
yeah,
But it is tough. It is a very tough matchup. Quest Rogue is a controlled deck killer.
One of the problems that Mage is facing is that he's actually playing an Zoth variant of it. So that swing turn of tons of board presence isn't really a thing that he's got. So, in addition to the time working against him, Vanish is also as heavy hitting as can be in that situation. The big starts for him are when he lands Doomsayer on a couple of minions, when he's able to have both the qualities and both consecrations rolling through, when he's able to draw extra cards with Harrison Jones and get some pressure rolling alongside Spikeridge Steed. The key cards for Kolento are quite literally Mimic Pod and Igneous Elemental, though. And he's got Igneous Elemental in his hand, and he's got a bounce effect to go with it.
Well, he gets back a Mimic Pod.
And he gets back a Mimic Pod, which I'm pretty surprised he mulliganed away.
Yeah, I think, the big thing is finishing the quest, and it's whether or not you want to try and go for a bounce effect or whether or not you want to try and gain the resources. And, one thing is when you're playing, another Mimic Pod.
The thing about it for me is that if he has Igneous Elemental, probably doesn't need Mimic Pod, is the direction I'm taking. So Mage, he doesn't know it quite yet, but he needs to figure out a way to be the aggressor, and him taking that redemption right there, I think, spells out what he feels about this.
Yeah. But he sees that Igneous Elemental, and you sort of know that you're in trouble because they're already halfway through their quest once that Igneous Elemental dies. It just takes them 2 mana to put down those Flame Elementals, and all of a sudden they just need a pair of bounce effects or another Igneous Elemental or Firefly. It's in the deck because the Flame Elemental is one of the easiest minions to complete the quest with how the deck works.
Yeah, especially in slow matchups. In quicker matchups, Igneous Elemental is pretty outshined by Glacial Shard.
Yeah.
And, the value crew of Firefly. But
yeah, the big thing here for Kolento is going to be, once he completes that quest, to try and pace himself. It's not necessarily a race to kill.
Mimic Pod on Vanish. That card is so good in this matchup because all of Mage's minions tend to be heavy.
Takes them, they Spikeridge Steed a minion. You vanish it back. They lose the Spikeridge Steed, they get the minion back. It's hard for them to replay expensive stuff. And I was just getting to the point of you got to pace yourself. You got to say, well, I'm going to put enough onto the board to pressure you and to contest your minions. I'm going to hold on to my charge minions and my bounces to try and go for that big turn where I vanish away and then kill you. And I can imagine that Kolento's played this matchup enough and, has enough Hearthstone savvy to be able to recognize those types of win conditions. And if I'm Mage, I am scared.
Yeah, a little surprised he doesn't go with the redemption here as well. I think that, him just keeping presence on board and chipping away is a really important facet in this match. He's going to need to land that Karam on a significant board to get this going, and Kolento finds 2 backstabs from his next Mimic Pod. And frankly, he's got more than enough, I think, to really get this quest progress underway, and the backstabs are going to help buy him time.
Yeah, I mean, right now he can completely clear the board. Leave a Novice Engineer and a 2/1 Igneous Elemental. He's also going to need a card deeper in his deck, try and find that second bounce effect, try and find that Firefly. I mean, Vanish is also sort of a resource generator for the rogue layer of the game. Not only is it a tool where you can sort of put these heavy minions back in the Paladin deck, it's also a tool where you can just put these cheap, value-generating minions back in your own hand.
And honestly, that backstab might have put Mage so far behind that he's just not going to recover from this spot. There's no minion to land with Spikeridge Steed or with Sunkeeper Tarim at this point. And Kolento's got heaps of resources in hand. If Mage doesn't find a pair of equalities, frankly, I don't think he wins this game, TJ.
Let me think.
Just Kodo?
I'm thinking Wild Pyromancer Redemption Loot Hoarder.
Yeah, that works too. I like that a lot.
The problem with that is that he's losing one of his equality activators if he chooses to go with that.
Yeah, and also Kodo, once the quest is completed, is a completely useless card.
Yeah.
I mean, he could even go for something like Kodo Coin Redemption to try and guarantee a Spikeridge Steed, but that seems really weak.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, me neither. I don't even know I said it.
He needs a coin out here even if there's nothing left. On Kolento's side.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, he's just... Is that a bounce? That is a bounce.
Oh my.
It's a bounce house.
This is about the last thing Mage wanted to see.
Yeah. Next turn, Kolento's going to be able to drop both of those flame elementals that he bounced and complete the quest.
That hand is way too heavy. Kolento's hand was way too strong. So much of this matchup boils down to if Mage can find board clear and choke off the resources from Kolento.
And then hope the quest rogue doesn't find the resources to complete the quest relatively early on in the game. Now, I'd say this is around the average time between, you know, turns 5 and 7 to be able to complete the quest. So it's by no means a blistering start, but it's still a good one for Kolento.
I think he's got to go face.
Ah, well, those minions are 5/5.
I mean, he's not going to win this way. He's got to put damage out and just hope that the Ashbringer and plus board clear can get it done. I think that attack is residing to your fate.
Yeah, actually, you know, attack. So, say he has to play both Flame Elementals to complete the quest and then spend 5 mana. He doesn't have the dagger up to do the additional damage to go even. If he goes face, he forces the 3 attacks anyway. I think face is the place.
Yep.
Means aside.
Put him to 18, put him to 16, play the Tyrion. You need 1 more point of damage. That sounds like an equality consecration to me. You're going to have to draw a nigh perfect to get that done, but I think that was his 1 out.
Yeah, it's a tiny little thing, but...
And look, Kolento didn't even attack. That's weird.
Was he going to banish it? I don't know.
I mean, if Mage is going to keep attacking your minions, I guess you let him do his thing. Now, once he plays it this way, it's probably smart to keep attacking minions because he's still on the choke out Kolento's resources plan. I just don't see this working. And now he can't draw equality. His hand is full.
He's going to burn a card.
My hand is too full.
Good one to burn. He doesn't need that one at all.
Yeah.
Ah, look at this plan. This was tricky. But if he's doing this, I'd like to see that 10 damage just go face. Ooh.
The one thing about Redemption on Tyrion, too, is you have to kill it twice to come back from when it's off.
I think Kolento's got the freedom to build a board here.
So many options.
Kolento is also getting pretty close to just being able to kill Mage if he can find a way to get through Tyrion.
That's why I like the Glacial Shard here. Glacial Shard frees it up. Get just another minion on board. And then in 1 fell swoop. Charge, 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 etc.
Ah, but man, this secret. Mage, this is a pretty heads-up play from him. You know, he took that Redemption probably with a lot of foresight, thinking eventually I'm going to try and land a Tyrion and go for it.
Well, Kolento's going to go with Banish. Rebuild the board. I like this play too. I mean, this is very similar to the Glacial Shard play. The difference here is that Kolento is a bit nervous about an equality clear. If that were to happen, it might be looking grim for him.
Let's see. Consecration.
Put your faith in the light.
Kolento, I mean, he's struggling through a lot of his turns, but he keeps assuring us how he feels about the difficulty of Hearthstone. Take a look.
I think there should be a bunch more people who are on the top level at Hearthstone, really, because I don't see how the game is so difficult for people. You just have to be smart. That's it. I can even play it with my leg, probably.
So many options.
You just have to be smart. That's it. It's not so difficult.
He can play with his leg?
You just have to be smart, TJ.
Not even his foot, his leg.
I can't.
How does that even work?
Well, the Redemption goes off on Tyrion,
Uh-oh. N'Zoth is coming down next turn. It's bringing out 2 Tyrians.
And both Vanishes are gone. Whoa, no, that was a Mimic Pod advantage. There's still 1 Vanish left.
There's 1 Vanish left. But, I mean, he's going to need that Vanish. N'Zoth is coming down next turn, and if he doesn't find Vanish...
The only way this is off doesn't hit is if Mage draws an equality.
Even if he does find Vanish, I still don't think he gets there. Because then he'll just replay the N'Zoth and resummon 2 Tyrians. He doesn't have enough mana. Kolento might have been choked down on resources. Mage may have turned the corner. That redemption on Tyrion was massive. Hearthstone's easy, he said.
This is not easy. There's about 70,000 different things that Mage could have done this game. This is the line that he took, and look at the spot that he's in. He could have pushed that extra damage to face, but it would have risked him dying at certain points. He could have tried to play more defensively and just chip away at the board, try to keep the Igneous Elemental from activating. He said he applied pressure to Kolento. Every step of the way, Kolento's resources are being forced, and Mage is once again in a spot where he's got multiple options. Sunkeeper Tarim is not unrealistic here, given that he's got the Wild Pyromancer and the Consecration the next turn. The N'Zoth looks great because of how well it plays versus a third Vanish sometimes. Again, 2 of those Vanishes, one of them was from Mimic Pod, so there's still a lot of guesswork for Mage to be doing here.
Mind if I roll knee?
Look at this. He's going to take the risk.
Wait a second. That's a lot of damage in Kolento's hand.
It's 15 from hand. He's got 7 on board to push through with the dagger. He's got 18 total damage. Not enough to kill.
Not enough.
And look at the setup that Mage has gone for here. With the second Sunkeeper Tarim in hand, if the Wild Pyromancer lives, no matter what Kolento develops, he's got Sunkeeper Tarim plus the Consecration to clear. He may be able to choke out all of Kolento's resources here. Kolento's got to kill that Wild Pyromancer. Just bury mid that Wild Pyromancer back to you.
Is he going to kill it?
Drink with me, friend.
This is an interesting route he's gone for to un-Sunkeeper Tarim debuff the useful Brewmaster.
I don't know if he's going to kill it. Sunkeeper Tarim plus Consecration.
Yeah, he's killed it. That's a bounce effect used. Wow.
It's time for N'Zoth now.
I don't know. I think the second Sunkeeper Tarim in hand, you could make a similar play. But I don't know if that's safe. I don't know what's safe anymore. I've never been in a game this tough, ever in my life.
I mean, we said it earlier. Control Paladin can grind the rogue out of resources. This is a perfect example of it. Kolento, he doesn't have Mimic Pod left. He's got 1 single Vanish left in his deck. He's got 13 cards, a lot of which do generate tokens, but Kolento's feeling the pressure. Took off his glasses, he's rubbing his face.
I've never seen that much emotion shown by Kolento in a game. I've never seen that.
Students putting to the test.
Must move quickly.
And again, he's just going for the Sunkeeper Tarim.
Now he's pushing 5 damage too. He's got the read. He knows Kolento doesn't have the pressure to end the game.
I mean, basically, as soon as an equality is picked up, I think Kolento is basically out of it. Mage still has N'Zoth as sort of just a nail in the coffin.
It may not even take an equality at this stage. I mean, a second Wild Pyromancer gives Mage enough to clear a 5 health board.
Yeah. Mage is being patient with the N'Zoth, I think as a nod towards Vanish. Because a N'Zoth plus 2 Tyrians is incredibly difficult to get through, but as soon as the Vanish comes out, you're nearly dead. And And once again, Kolento having to get through the Sunkeeper Terran the old-fashioned way.
Oh, you got to attack first.
It's getting to him. It's really getting to him. And he's starting to get close to dead. Mage has 2 more turns of attacking.
Oh, no ropes burning.
You got to go.
He's leaving up minions, too. That's going to risk consecration. Yeah, he's going for extra minions at this point. Oh my gosh, equality would be nuts for Mage right now. This draw could completely change the tournament for him.
Equality is lethal damage. Forbidden healing.
Well, now what?
N'Zoth. Or draw equality.
I mean, is N'Zoth enough here?
I mean, you need a lot of attacks to get through 2 Tyrians.
How about bounces, though? He's going to go for it. He's going to tank 5 damage to take out one of these taunts, and Kolento needs Banish.
South Sea Deckhand, I don't think is enough. He needs 3 attacks for each Tyrian.
He can't deal damage this turn except for with the South Sea Deckhand.
He's dead. He is dead.
Are you kidding me, TJ? This quest has been done for a lot of turns. Mage was super patient with the redemption. He didn't play strong to the board, he played strong to a setup. That setup was over 10 turns down the road with N'Zoth on double Tyrian. Hearthstone is easy.
Choose soon.
Kolento will soon realize that Mage has just beat him.
So many options.
It is not as easy as it looks, and Mage takes it 3 games to 2 over Kolento and moves on to the top 8.
What a performance. After the blunder in game number 1, letting the rope burn on him. Mage, after what could be years of